Are you tired of counting calories, too much weighing and plugging in foods, or you just can't seem to figure it out? Well, you're in luck, because in today's video, I'm gonna give you 10 tips to help you create a calorie deficit. That way you never have to track a gram of rice again. Dude, what's with you always giving out 10 tips? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were watching, but can anyone tell me who the is this guy? Ugh. Carry on. Thank you. Now, before we get started, I wanted to mention that this isn't the enemy. It's a tool and a way for us to track to simply get as close to accurate results as possible. Now, while this isn't something that you have to do year round, it definitely is something that I would consider and recommend you trying, simply because it's gonna give you a better understanding on how much you're actually eating. Because if you don't know, then you're just guessing. And if you're just guessing, then it's gonna be quite difficult to know if you're truly in a calorie deficit. But don't worry, because that is why I came up with these 10 tips, starting with number 1. Eat a higher protein and fibrous diet, simply because these foods that you see here have a higher thermic effect to the body, meaning that it's gonna take a lot longer to digest and process these foods, helping you use more energy by burning more calories to break down these foods. Now, this is gonna help with satiety, keeping you nice and full for longer, as well as surrounding ourselves with foods like this are gonna guarantee that we're eating fewer calories and helping us get into that calorie deficit. See this right here? This can actually help with fat loss. And I'm not talking about a knuckle sandwich. I'm talking about portion control and how you can use your hands to help you create your meals. Let me explain. Open your hand and think about your palm. You should be consuming at least, depending on how many meals you have, palm size of protein, something that can at least be the size of your palm. When it comes to your starchy carbohydrates or maybe a fruit, it should be able to fit within your cup of hand. As for vegetables, I would always recommend the more the better, but at least double the fruit or the starchy carbohydrates, so I would go with double cup. As for your fats, being that this is the highest macronutrient when it comes to calories, we want to be able to measure these or limit these, so that's why we're going to use our thumb as a rule of thumb. So your thumbnail would be more of like a teaspoon and your full thumb would be like a tablespoon. But another way you can measure is by using measuring cups or maybe even teaspoons or tablespoons to help you control and limit without having to pour it up and rack up those calories. Tip number 3 is going to be stick to a routine. Now, while I believe that most of us already surround ourselves with the same foods, this is going to be one of the best ways to be able to track our progress. So sticking to the same foods on a daily basis is going to be one of our best ways to measure and knowing to see if the scale is going up or down. That is going to allow us to be able to gauge whether we should increase or decrease our foods, because if we're constantly just changing our meals on a daily basis, then it's going to make it that much harder to track our progress. Tip number 4 is going to be eat more whole foods. Now, these are going to be foods that have more of a nutritional value, are going to be lower in calorie, going to keep you full for longer, and are single ingredient foods compared to food labels that have more than 10 plus ingredients. So I would suggest to stay away from those, on top of the fact that they are higher in calorie. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go cold turkey and go into a 100% whole food diet. That is probably not realistic, and we're looking for adherence and something that you can stick to. So to guarantee and help us to create that calorie deficit, I would suggest at least sticking to 80 to 90% with good quality whole foods, and then 10 to 20% of these unhealthy foods that we consider treats. This way you can also enjoy your meals, and this will help us stick to a routine long term and can help us get into that calorie deficit. Tip number 5 is going to be stick to leaner meats. Now, I'm talking about meats like ground turkey, ground chicken, chicken breast, leaner cuts of ground beef, shrimp, tuna, maybe even deli meats. Now, it doesn't even just have to be meats. It can also be protein powder, Greek yogurt. I'm simply saying eat more protein, and I would suggest having protein in every single meal, simply because we want to stay away from the added calories from fattier meats. We already know that protein has a higher thermic effect. We already know that protein is going to keep you full for longer, and we already know that if you stick to leaner meats, these are going to be more so on the lower calorie end. And being that we are not tracking, we want to do these tips to help us and set us up for success, to help us get into that calorie deficit. So we just talked about choosing leaner meats, but what about our fats? My suggestion here is going to be add your fats. Stay away from the fatty meats. Why? Because that's just gonna combo and double up the added calories that we don't need, especially if looking to be in a calorie deficit and we are not counting calories or tracking. So sticking to more like a ground turkey or chicken breast and then adding your avocado to the meal is gonna set you up more for success. And if you decide to have a salad on the side, just remember, if you're gonna add olive oil, to measure it with your rule of thumb with a teaspoon or tablespoon compared to what? Pouring it up. We wanna stay away from that so we don't rack up those calories. Now, I'm not gonna talk about this topic for too long because I've talked about it in almost every single video, and I'm talking about avoid drinking your calories. Choose where you spend your calories wisely, especially when trying to be in that calorie deficit. Instead of spending 150 calories on a beverage on top of your meal, adding more unnecessarily calories, choose a 0-calorie beverage that's gonna satisfy you, or spend your 150 calories on more protein or more veggies. That's the point when dieting, is trying to choose high volume foods so you can eat more of. Now, tip number 8 is not for everyone, but definitely something to consider, and that is trying intermittent fasting. Now, fasting is not something you do. It's actually something you don't do. Eat. Now, by restricting the window of when you can eat, this helps us by limiting the amount of how much we actually get to eat, helping us stay full in a smaller window, therefore hoping that we're eating less calories, because technically that is the point of restricting when you can eat, to get fewer meals in, therefore you're getting fewer calories, helping us get into that calorie deficit. Now, before we get into tip number 9, I just want to finish off the intermittent fasting topic by saying, while this is a great fat loss tool, by restricting our window on when we can eat, therefore hoping that we get into that calorie deficit by eating fewer calories, I just want you to know that you can still gain weight while trying intermittent fasting. It's all going to come down to calories in versus calories out. This does not mean that you can eat anything and everything you want. While this is restricting on when you can eat, it's not restricting on how much you can eat. So just keep that in mind. I'm sorry to break it to you, just being honest. Now, if you've made it this far in the video and you've been enjoying everything about this video, I'd really appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel if you're new, and smash that thumbs up button, as it really helps me share these videos out to more viewers. And now that that's said, let's go on to tip number 9. Now, tip number 9 is gonna be set a calorie stepping goal. Now, I'm not saying move your hands to get your Apple Watch to get more steps in, because I know these people. My girlfriend, just kidding, she works really freaking hard. This is gonna help us by getting more movement and working on our cardiovascular, and also helping us by burning more calories. This should almost be like a non-negotiable, especially if you work a desk job and you don't move as much. This is gonna help us by setting us up for success. All these 9 tips I've already talked about is helping by putting us in a better position and getting us closer to our goal, especially if we do not want to track a single gram of arroz. That's rice in Spanish. So I'd suggest starting small, choosing a goal, maybe like 7,000 steps, increase it to 8,000, and work your way up to 10,000 steps a day. It's just extremely important to try and set and prioritize some time to move a little bit more. Tip number 10, here we go. Tip number 10, and honestly, I'm gonna miss you guys, but I gotta finish this video. So tip number 10 is get your at least 3 to 5 times a week. Prioritize some time, 30 to 60 minutes, to going in there and doing something you're not doing right now, and focus on building as much muscle as you possibly can. Don't worry, you're not gonna turn into the Hulk, but stop focusing on the little things that don't matter, like what's the best next exercise or what's the best workout plan. Go in there and do something you're not doing right now. This is where you're gonna see the most change. The more muscle we have, the better our metabolism is gonna be. The more efficient our body's gonna be at burning fat. The more you move, the more calories you burn, and the more calories you burn, the more you get to freaking eat, which is something that we all love to do. Now, I hope these 10 tips were helpful and you can utilize them in your everyday, and these will help you get into that calorie deficit. Let me know in the comments below if you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace, baby. Let's go.